Hi, this is Sweet June. I am back at you with with part two of why I don't like the early child care field. And as I was saying in the last video, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love children. I do love children, but I want to love them from a distance. um, um, I was talking about in the last video the tremendous amount of stress in this field. Now, that's my opinion. I mean, but a lot of my colleagues felt the same way. A lot of my colleagues felt the exact same way I felt, and I felt really mentally drained. You know, just mentally drained. Um, doing I did like I said, this job is has a tremendous amount of stress. Now I can't just talk about all the cons and not talk about some of the pros. Now the pros was, always got weekends off. I mean, because the daycare was only open Monday through Friday, so um, it was nice having the opportunity to have all weekends off, and we got paid um, most of the holidays throughout the year. Um, the daycare was closed, and we got paid, so it was paid holidays, weekends off. So those were some of the perks of the job. Um, but unless you are a person that really has a lot of passion for this field, um, um, it's not a high paying field. Unless you're someone that really has a lot of passion for it. And there are people that really have the passion for it and that really want to do it. And I say God bless them because um, I contemplated trying to further my education because there's opportunities. Oh, and that's another one of the pros is that um, there's a program. It's called the Teach program, and it if you want to further your education in early childhood, like get a degree, they help you pay for your classes. It's like a scholarship. As long as you're working in the field, they will help you pay for the classes. So that's another plus. And I actually at one time contemplated that, but then I thought about it. I had spent many years going to school, and at my age, I'm like, well, I really don't want to spend a lot of time going to school because I knew that getting an associate was going to take some time, in this field. And I said, well, I don't want to waste my time getting an associate in something that, first of all, doesn't pay well. Second of all, I have no passion for it. So I just figured at my age, it would be a waste of time for me to try to get a degree in something that I don't have a passion for and it doesn't pay very well. Now, I think um, in order to really make any money in this field, you probably would have to get a master's degree. At the master's level, you could probably make more money, a decent amount of money in this field at the master's level. But then again, if you got a master's degree in any field, you should be making long money. I don't care what field it is. If you have a master's degree, you should be making good money for the master's degree. So, and that's probably what level that you're going to have to get at in this field if you really want to make any money. But it's a relatively low paying field. Like I said, Head Start in my city um, pays pretty decent, pays daycare, child care teachers, early childhood educators a decent wage, and that's probably the route to take. If I was to ever go back into this field, that definitely would be the route that I would take. But 9 times out of 10, I highly doubt that I'm going to go back into this field because I don't have the passion for it, and it's just a tremendous amount of stress. I felt like it was a tremendous amount of stress um, for me personally, um, and I just felt like we wasn't properly trained. We didn't have the proper training to deal with children that have challenging behaviors. And I kept asking them over and over and over that I needed more training to deal with children that have challenging behaviors. Well, we got tons of training in other areas. We got a little bit of training in that, but not, in my opinion, wasn't very much. And I kept really asking for the training, more intense training in that segment, that part, and never received it, you know. And and that's another thing as far as the training. Now, this child care center that I work for was this particular place that I work for was accredited, and because they were accredited, they required that we do extensive training. So I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna knock it. I felt like we didn't get enough training to deal with challenging behaviors, but there was a tremendous amount of training, um, ongoing training that we had to get. The only problem that I had with that training is that a lot of it we had to do at home. We had to do a lot of that training at home on our own time on the computer, because there was a site that we had to go on and take these classes. And sometimes taking those classes would be 2 and 3 hours. And we had to do this at home on our own personal time. I had a bit of an issue with that, because I feel like, when once I'm clocked out, in my mind, once I'm clocked out, I'm on my own time. And I actually told them this, and they got a little angry with me after I told them that. Once I clock out, it's my time, and it's not the job's time. So, but there was no way that you could do the classes at work, because there was no time for you to do them at work. I mean, every now and then you get a little time, you can hop on a computer and try to do some of it at work. Most of the time, you don't have time between working with the children, and taking your break or whatever. You don't have time to do that training, that online training that was required at work. You had to do it at home, and these classes were mandatory. We had to do them. If we did not do them, then our job was at stake. So we did not get paid. They gave us a little bit of a bonus, but when you get a bonus, when an employer gives you a bonus, it's actually supposed to be a bonus, not an advancement. It's like they would give you a bonus and then they turn around and tax it out of your paycheck, and so it wasn't really a bonus. And they gave you a little bit of a bonus for doing the classes, but to me, you know, I think everybody would agree time is money. And if I'm sitting here spending 3 or 4 hours of my time, personal time, working on something that's related to the job, then I need to feel like I need to get the proper compensation. If I'm making $9.40 an hour, then you need to be paying me an extra $9.40 an hour to do these classes. If I'm taking 3 and 4 or more hours out of my time to do these classes at home, then you need to be paying me $9.40 an hour at home to do the classes. You know, so I had an issue with that. It was a lot of people did. Um, too much too much training that was required on our own time. Now, not gonna knock the training. It was really good information, and it was really good training that was needed for the job, and they gave you the proper training that was required, and the proper teaching that was required to learn the skills for this particular job. But I had never had a job where out of all my jobs, I never had a job where I had to do hours and hours of training at home in my own time. Most jobs, they have what they call in services, and you go to a meeting once or twice a month, and you sit there and they give you the information that you need for that particular job. It's like this job that I have now. We have what they call in-service meetings, and we go to the meeting and they tell us what we need to know at that meeting, and we get paid for it. Now, this job, um, they did pay us. We did have those kind of meetings, and we did get paid. But like I said, we had all the training that we had to do on our own time, and I wasn't the only one that had an issue with that because some people had young children at home and all this kind of stuff, and like when you got things you have to do at home and you have your own life, you really don't have time to be sitting around unless it's something for a college course. You don't have time to be sitting around doing hours of training at home, but it was required. But I felt like other jobs I was mandated. I felt like I was getting mandated without getting paid. you know, because other jobs I would get mandated, but at least they paid me. You know, I felt like doing all that training at home, make, requiring us to do all this training at home. I felt like I was getting mandated without getting paid. So that was an issue for me. But like I was saying, um, this job is a tremendous amount of stress. Um, when the children are having challenging behaviors, I just didn't feel like the management gave us enough support. Um, children, people think when they think of early child, even when you Google, if you Google early childhood education, Google it. Go on Google and Google it, and click on images. You like the picture that I got on my thumbnail on the first video. Oh, it's got the picture of the children sitting there all sweet and everything. If you Google early childhood educators, early childhood teachers, and then click on images, you see some wonderful images. Little kids, and then teachers there sitting there all perfect, and that's not really how it looks. That's not really how it goes down. Um, Most of the time, uh, the classroom is very chaotic. You know, there's children. Um, you're going to have a certain amount of children that is going to be running around, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Even if you're trying to have circle time is when you have all the children sitting on the carpet and you're talking to them, reading to them, singing to them, doing activities, and then you have certain other children that don't. I mean, not we don't expect 3-year-olds to be perfect. No, of course not. They're 3-year-olds, but it's just when you have so many of them at the same time, and then you have certain many amount of them that have challenging behaviors, it can be very stressful for a teacher. And I just, like I said, I thought, like I said in the last video, that it was a huge liability. That I mean, the liability was huge. It was too much of a liability for me, personally. I was always in constant fear of making a big mistake with a child and getting in trouble, and um, I was always in constant fear of a child getting into a terrible accident in my care, and I get in trouble, get prosecuted for it. I was always in constant fear of that, you know, it's just my worst nightmares was like either falling on a child or losing a child, and that was like my worst nightmare of the job. And so I was just always trying to dot my I's and cross my T's, and that can cause, and that caused me, I don't know about everybody else, but that caused me a certain amount of anxiety, because I'm like always in fear of a child getting seriously hurt in my care. And if a child gets seriously hurt, sometimes there can be an extensive investigation. And man, the liability. I would say the liability part of it is really, 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 really stressful. And I think that makes the job more stressful, and that adds to the stress. And I just really think that early childhood educators should get paid more money. Channel 3 did a report, um, well, Channel 3 in my town, but CBS did a report, and it was an excellent report on their CBS's morning show, and they was talking about early childhood, daycare teachers, and they was talking about across the country. This is literally all across the country. Daycare teachers are quitting and going into other fields because they were talking about the stress of the job, and they was talking about how they were underpaid. And there were actually two parents on there that were really concerned about the turnover in their particular daycare, and these were parents lived in New York, and so they decided to investigate it further and everything, and look into it further, and realized that um, the the teachers wasn't getting paid enough, and they was kind of actually petitioning for the teachers to get paid more money because you know they kept saying how important our job was because we're we're getting we're setting the foundation for the children, and it's like the literally we are the first teachers of those kids, and and we're setting the foundation. But my thought is, if our job is so important, if our job was so important, then why didn't we get more money? Why isn't the pay why do the pay not match the importance of the job? You say, well, you're setting a foundation and your job is very important, and I get that it's important, but we didn't get the important money. And so all across the board, everyone had a serious issue with that. Um, not getting the money, and making 940 after 4.5 years is just ridiculous for any job, not just early childhood, but any job, you know. And so I just felt like I was not valued. I felt like I wasn't appreciated, and losing me was like the equivalent of losing two employees because I also, like I said, I also filled in the kitchen at times. So I felt like when she lost me, it was like losing the equivalent of two employees, you know. So, like I said, if anybody work in this field, if anybody is thinking about working in this field, um, you need to have a serious passion because it's a very, very challenging field. And you have to have a lot of patience. You cannot have anger problems and work with kids. Like you get some teachers, some people may have issues with anger. Well, you can't have issues with anger and work with young children because if you have anger problems, then you're gonna wind up abusing a child, and you wind up abusing a child, then you probably gonna be facing some jail time. So if you got anger issues, this is not the job for you because these kids will give you the run of from your money. You know, you got to deal with being kicked. You got to deal with being hit. You got to deal with being all that. You know, and so um, I'm just getting too old to get beat up. So, but I mean, I felt like towards the end I got pretty good at my job, and that was actually my goal. But I just realized in the long run that it's not my passion, and this is not something that I want to do till retirement. So I just, like I said, if you do this field, make sure that this is absolutely something that you want to do, and this is your passion, because you have to have a passion for it to deal with the low pay and the stress that job requires. Okay, I got some more interesting video topics coming up. This is Sweet Jen.